Hello, everyone. It's Marla. Welcome back to Twinstrology. Good to speak with you today. I hope everybody's doing well in this intense energy. I had a little issue. I ran out of time. Just got a lot on right now, and so I wasn't able to set up my studio today and record a proper video. So it's just going to be my voice today. I know you guys prefer to see me, but I do hope that you'll be patient with me as I'm still in transition and that you'll just tune in anyways and listen to my voice and what I have to say about the upcoming eclipse and Mars retrograde. So, the first thing that I want to say is that I feel that the Scorpio new moon eclipse on October 25th is going to be opening another 2222 portal. So, even though the date of the eclipse doesn't vibrate with the number 2, the sun and moon are going to be conjunct on exactly 2 degrees of Scorpio. The planet Venus will be at 2 degrees 40 minutes of Scorpio, which 4 is also the vibration of 2, and Mercury is at 2240 Libra. So yeah, what I got from that was that the 22222 gateway is going to be opening. And of course, in November, there's going to be several days that carry the 22222 vibrations. So, November being an 11th month, it's going to have several days that carry that 222 vibration, and the most important day is going to be 11/11. So I just want to give you guys a heads up about that because obviously if you add 1 and 1, you get 2. So 11/11 is going to be 2/2 and then 2/2/2. So it's going to carry the 2/2/2/2 vibration, but then also the 11/11 vibration as well. So that's going to be a very big day energetically, and one that you might want to plan on just doing something special for that day. So think about the energy that we were in back in February and the massive shift that we went through. If you recall, what I was speaking about at that time was how we were being freed in a lot of ways and we were becoming the creators of our reality. We're still sitting in that energy, and what we've been doing all through this year is clearing, tying up all these karmic loose ends. And while we tie up those loose ends, we're regaining soul fragments and positive karma. So we have been shifting a lot, and we are right now in the mix to really go into another intense time of transitioning, similar to what we had in February. So we are already in the energy of the eclipse. For me personally, I felt the energy intensify on Monday, I'm thinking. And a lot of stuff started happening. A lot of clearing started happening, but also some things were beginning to come to a head, certain things in my life. And I know from working with other twin flames, a lot of those things are happening with you too. And this is preparing us for the 2 eclipses that are sandwiching Mars retrograde. So we are in a super intense time of clearing. There's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, we're in the sign of Scorpio, and Scorpio relates to those things that we often repress, right? Scorpio is part of the water signs. It's a very emotional sign, but it's ruled by Mars, and it's not always comfortable with those emotions, and so tends to repress things until like they can't be held back anymore. There's a lot of that passionate energy with Scorpio. And so with the new moon being in Scorpio, it's time to break free of what we've been resisting emotionally, what we've been resisting facing Or in some ways, we just haven't been able to see it. It's been very subconscious and you haven't been able to see it. But now, because you're leveling up spiritually and the energy that's going on with the feminine and masculine energies, you're being given some opportunities to get clarity about what is still holding you back. Now, this is stuff I've been talking about for a while, and I made some posts recently about it on Facebook and Instagram. If you don't follow me on social media, you may want to, because I do put little updates on there from time to time. We have this energy of Scorpio. I'll get back to the what I posted recently in a minute. Of course, it's a new moon, so it's wanting to bring us some new energy, but it's like you can't enter into that new energy until you clear out all this old gunk that's been in there. And yeah, we're always doing clearing, and it's like, how much can be in there? Well, it's pretty deep where we have to go. So we have the new moon, but also we have Venus on the exact same degree of the new moon. And Venus has been in conjunction with the the full moon that we just had in Aries. I want to say, I can't remember quite the Libra new moon, but I want to say Venus was close to that new moon as well. And Venus is also going to be with the sun and the moon in a conjunction when we go on to the Taurus full moon in a couple weeks. And Venus is also going to be in conjunction with the sun and the moon at the Sagittarius new moon. Now, this is important because Venus has been very much active with the moon. So the moons create activations in the energy, and Venus has been very much a part of those activations. The feminine and masculine energies have been getting a lot of activations. The ruler of the new moon is Mars, and Mars is in Gemini, and Mars is on its degree of stationing, which is the 25th degree of Gemini, and will be going retrograde on October 30th. And this Mars retrograde is going to be activating the masculine energy. Now, Mars has already been crossing over the degrees of its retrograde, so the masculine has very much been getting activated. And, we're talking on a broad level about the masculine and feminine in all of us, as well as the externalized versions of that, which is what we experience as twin flames. So let's talk a little bit about the masculine and feminine energy. So with Mars getting ready to go retrograde and crossing over its degrees, this has been activating the masculine to let down its guard a little bit. Now, Gemini, of course, is a sign of communication. And I feel like communication is going to be something that the masculine is going to be focusing on during this retrograde, because part of them letting down more of their guard and being more open is being able to be more communicative. Think of that Mars energy as being that inner protector and wanting to keep us safe. And so it often can create walls around what we share with other people because we don't want to be vulnerable. But there's this bigger thing going on with the Gemini energy, because Gemini also relates to duality, especially as we get more esoteric in our astrology. And Gemini, or I should say the ruler of Gemini, Mercury, is the bridge between the material world and the spiritual world. And Mercury is the only god that can travel between Earth and the underworld. And so Mercury becomes the bridge. When we master our Mercury, we have this proper connection between the material realm and the spiritual realm. And we understand that duality doesn't exist. And so we have been doing a lot of this clearing of the union energies and the wound of separation. And so Mars going retrograde in Gemini is assisting with this, because the masculine are going to be looking at, understanding, and integrating the idea of duality and overcoming the idea of duality and realizing that duality is an illusion. Now, the reason why the masculine energy is able to do this right now is because of the feminine energy. And it's because the feminine is more and more and more elevating and mastering unconditional love. It's that unconditional love that is finally showing the masculine that this love is real. And that's why they're willing now to step out of that protective mode, that defensiveness a little bit. Now, Venus, as I said, is in Scorpio. Let's take a little look at Scorpio and Venus and Scorpio, because Venus and Scorpio can be that very passionate energy, but it can also be an energy of distrusting people in relationships, always watching people. Are people being honest? Are people being real? Scorpios can be very skeptical at certain times. They can be very skeptical about spiritual things, even though they're a very spiritual sign. But that Venus in Scorpio often is a Venus that has been hurt in the past. And yet, here we are with Venus conjunct this new moon in Scorpio, and I feel like the feminine energy for their part, or that inner part of us that's holding the feminine, is ready to take that leap of faith and just be like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what happens. I'm just going to love, and I'm going to love my masculine. I'm going to show compassion to the masculine. And in turn, the masculine, which remember, Mars is the ruler of Scorpio. Mars in Scorpio itself can be very distrusting and not wanting to let down its guard. Mars is that warrior energy, right? It wants to be strong, powerful, and yeah, it can also be distrusting. And I think that the masculine energy couldn't trust. You know, it's like the feminine can say to the masculine, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. But it's like words don't carry the weight that actions do. And it's like the masculine for a long time has been sitting back and just watching, and is only now being like, okay, like this person has not shifted their feelings in so long. I think the masculine was like, oh, well, they say they love me, but a lot of people say they love me, but their actions don't say that they love me. So even though you say you love me, I'm just going to sit back and watch, because probably in 6 months or a year, you're probably going to forget about me. You're going to move on, etc., etc. And yet time after time after time after time, you're still there. Or the feminine energy, I should say, is still there. And the masculine is finally like, okay, like, I guess you really do love me, because you're still here. You haven't abandoned me, even though there's still parts of the masculine that aren't trusting that you won't abandon them or that you won't reject them. That's still part that they're healing. But more and more and more, they're wanting to share that love with you and be more open. So we can look at that on that different level, right? The inner and the outer, has within, so without. Like within us, our feminine is becoming more loving and more compassionate. And so that masculine within us is ready to open up more. Because the masculine, as I said, the masculine has been holding stuff back in your subconscious, holding stuff back from yourself because it was too painful and it wanted to protect you. It's like, no, you're not ready. Nope, you're not ready to go there. You're not ready to look at that yet. But now finally that feminine inside of you has grown in love and compassion so much, and compassion for yourself. It's like, yes, you can look at that and you can stay balanced so that you can understand that from a bigger perspective and then let it go. So our inner masculine and feminine are very much work have to as you're getting triggered, and there's a lot of triggers coming up. There's a lot of clearing happening. So it's important on the inner level when you get triggered to have that compassion for yourself and hold your masculine energy in love. Or, yeah, hold your masculine energy in love. I'm getting like confused for a minute with the planets. You gotta let your inner masculine feel safe, has these walls come down, these emotions come up to be expressed. You've got to make your inner masculine feel safe. I just posted that video, Isis and Osiris, about, balancing your inner masculine and feminine and letting go of some of the old programming. Like for the feminine, it's anger. The feminine has held back a lot of anger within, and that's not just for your twin, but you might be experiencing levels of anger at all different things. A lot for the masculine revolves around shame and regrets and guilt. And those are parts that our masculine piece of us has a hard time looking at. So it's very telling of what's happening energetically that more and more we're beginning to clear and have an opportunity to actually see these things. But this is also happening on the external with the twin flame dynamic. And it's that love of the feminine coming through and supporting the masculine so that that masculine energy is beginning to trust in the love. A lot of the masculine, they were so walled off emotionally, like they may not even have been able to recognize you right away or even for a while because they were so disconnected from their emotions and their heart. But as their own inner feminine has grown, their heart connection has grown, and their self-love has grown, so that they're getting more and more prepared for their next stage of mission. And the masculine is very much leveling up right now. The masculine within all of us, but those that are embodying the masculine are in a big leveling up because it's time for them to, like, how do I want to say it? They're just expanding so rapidly in consciousness. And as I said in one of my posts recently, they're very much focused on their ascension. They're very much focused on spiritual alignment. As I think we all are, or we all should be. Because that's the most important piece of our puzzle right now, is allowing this leveling up to happen. When I say they're focusing on spiritual alignment, when they're with this Mars retrograde in Gemini and being faced with duality, more and more the masculine is aware that the personality level and the soul level are not aligned. I don't know how much you guys have experienced it, but that pull to our soul has gotten a lot stronger, and it's going to become even more stronger as we move through the month of November, when we move through this Mars retrograde. And it's like we're all being asked, how can I make my 3D self, my personality, um, more in line with who I am on the soul level and what I'm feeling my soul is calling me to do. And so, for a lot of twins, a big part of this is the soul is now calling us back to union. And whatever that way is for each of us, whether it's spiritual union, actual physical union, one comes before the other, but with one then comes the other. Does that make sense? So, like, yeah, the spiritual union comes before the physical union in most cases. Well, yeah, it in all cases, because even if you're in the physical, if you're not spiritually aligned, then you're not really in union. But once you can integrate spiritual union and what that means, then you start bringing that energy grounding more and more into the physical plane. And that's how spiritual union proceeds the physical union. And I feel like when we get into 2023, there's some things happening at the first half of the year that it will also, I feel, impact twins and union energies, and we'll talk more about it when we get there. So speaking of union, asteroid union has been squaring the nodal axis for a long time, and now union is, it's still in the square, but it's gone direct again. So it's starting to separate. And the nodes are at 13 and union is at 12. So remember, the nodes go backwards. So it's not going to be an exact square like that again for a long time. So while we have these eclipses and we still have union squaring the nodes, take advantage of that by consciously working towards clearing energies for your union and clearing past life karma that is happening too. Now, asteroid Destin is also creating a little bit of a fixed cross there, because you have the nodes and then union opposing Destin, which stands for destiny. So some very destined shifts happening as far as the masculine, feminine, and the concept of union. Mars is on the Sabian symbol winter frost in the woods. That's going to be the degree that Mars stations on. And I feel that's relevant because I feel like it's representing kind of the frozenness of the emotions. I've been getting that for some of the masculine energies when I'm doing readings for people, is that like their inner child is almost frozen, or it's frozen up the emotions. And so this is what this um, the rest of the year is. It's unlocking these hidden aspects. The Sabian symbol for the South Node is another important one. The telephone linemen at work installing new connections. I feel that's important in a couple different ways, because those new connections, we're talking about telephone lines, it could relate to communications. That's the obvious thing. And with Mars retrograde in Gemini, I do feel like communications are going to be important. But also, there could be like new lines opening on the spiritual level. Okay, so they're saying like energies opening. So think about expanded energetic fields And this is related to the Kundalini activations that are happening. Now, Chiron is on the 13th degree of Aries, which we've talked about several times. And it is a man and a woman. No, okay. The Sabian actually is a serpent coiling near a man and a woman. And that Sabian has a lot to do with Kundalini as well as the balancing and the clearing of the masculine and feminine energies, like clearing out the old energies. So right now, there is Kundalini activations, and with those activations, the root chakra and sacral chakra especially are being activated. That's because a lot of the lower emotions are stored in those chakras, and a lot of like fear, abandonment, distrust, old sexual energies, um, those are all down in those lower chakras. So it makes sense that we've got to go in there and we've got to loosen up that energy so that we can experience things that have been repressed. I mean, think about the root chakra too. That's our chakra that has to do with safety. And so if we don't feel safe, we hold things back. And we don't want to hold them back anymore. It's time to let them go because it's going to allow us to become so much more authentic. I think probably by early next year, we'll all be wondering, like, wow, when did this transition happening? Because we're just going to be so much more of that spiritually aligned energy, embodying so much more of our soul. So I'm going to end it there, guys. Thanks for listening. If you would like a personal reading with me, go to my website, which is Twinstrology. Just a little note, because I know a lot of people ask me questions about my readings and stuff. And if you go to my website, there's a tab for services, and you have to pull down the services tab to look at the options I have for tarot and astrology readings. Yeah, just want to make you aware of that. Like I said, you can follow me on social media at Twinstrology on Facebook or Twinstrology 1111 on Instagram.